Hey everyone, Pratima here. So whenever somebody asks me which premium mid-range phone they should get, most of them want me to suggest a Samsung phone, even though there are plenty of great options from other brands as well. But if you remember, it was not very long ago when companies like OnePlus had quite a strong command in the upper mid-range arena. But these days, Samsung's popularity and dominance in this segment is simply unmatched. So basically, you have three options if you're looking to buy a premium mid-range Samsung phone right now in 2023. First is the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE. Yes, this is more than a year old by now, but the S21 FE is still a kick-ass smartphone with great cameras for both photos and videos. Then there's the Samsung Galaxy A54 with its premium design and better software commitment. Samsung recently launched the Galaxy F54 as well, which actually is quite similar to the A54 despite the significant price gap. So I've been getting a lot of questions from lots of folks asking if they should get the F54 or if it's worth spending extra on the Galaxy A54 instead. And I think I am perfectly capable of answering that question because I have been using both of them side by side for the past couple of weeks to get an even deeper insight into Samsung's latest mid-range devices. Okay, so the most obvious way Samsung has tried to differentiate them is in terms of the design. And you can probably tell just by looking at it that the Galaxy A54 is the more premium of the two. From its all-attractive color options to a glass-back design and a relatively compact form factor, this thing feels much better on the hands. And unlike the Galaxy F54, Samsung has also included IP67 dust and water resistance here, which gives me all the confidence to take it outdoors on these rainy monsoon days. I definitely don't mean to say that the Galaxy F54 has a terrible hands-on feel though. In fact, its curved finish at the back actually makes holding the phone easier compared to the A54's flat sides. But the plastic back here feels rather cheap, it catches fingerprints and smudges effortlessly, and it's prone to scratches and scuffs too. So yeah, as far as the design is concerned, the Galaxy A54 pretty much takes a clean sweep. But when it comes to the display, both bring a gorgeous Super AMOLED panel with a smooth 120Hz refresh rate and Gorilla Glass 5 protection, and I am sure you will love them. The only difference between these two devices is that the Galaxy A54 manages better outdoor visibility since it has 1000 nits of peak brightness compared to 800 nits on the Galaxy F54. And you're also getting an adaptive refresh rate on the Galaxy A54. It's not the same as the LTPO display that is found on flagship phones or anything, but it can switch between 60 and 120 Hz to save power. On the other hand, the Galaxy F54 boasts 120 Hz all the times, no matter what app you're running. Likewise, the Galaxy A54 also has stereo speakers, while you only get a single speaker on the Galaxy F54, so be it loudness or clarity, the Galaxy F54 thoroughly falls behind. Their haptic feedback, on the other hand, is quite similar. Not that these guys have the absolute best haptics for a mid-range phone, but Samsung has definitely upped its haptic feedback game this year by including an X-axis linear motor on both of these devices. Okay, let's talk about the performance now. Both these phones got the same Exynos 1380 chipset and run on the same One UI 5.1 software. Samsung is also committing to 4 generations of OS and 5 years of security updates on both of them, so that's pretty sweet. Anyway, as expected, they perform almost exactly the same in day-to-day tasks. I also run a quick app opening and multitasking test between them, and as you can see, it's pretty much the same result. But what about gaming then? If you have watched my review of either of these phones, then you already know that the Exynos 1380 is an absolute no-go when it comes to gaming. Samsung has just not managed to optimize this chip well enough to handle even the most popular titles like PUBG Mobile. And be it in terms of thermals, graphics, or FPS stability, you're simply not going to get a good gaming experience here. And to my surprise, the Galaxy F54 has even worse thermals somehow. Maybe Samsung has included a relatively worse cooling system on the Galaxy F54 or a lower bin version of the Exynos 1380, but it gets noticeably hotter compared to the Galaxy A54, both in benchmarks and gaming tests. Okay, that brings me to the cameras. The Galaxy A54 gets a 50 megapixel primary, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 5 megapixel macro sensor compared to Galaxy F54's 108 megapixel primary, 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2 megapixel macro unit. Now, despite the different camera sensor, I found out that in daytime conditions, these two phones shoot pretty identical photos. From the color science to details, you're going to get very similar results here. A54 does manage better highlight control in some cases, while F54's contrast level looks nicer sometimes, but overall they are quite similar. In ultra-wide angle shots though, Galaxy A54's photos turn out better most of the time, and it also captures a wider field of view without any heavy distortion around the edges. I've also found that Samsung has optimized A54's cameras better in terms of portraits too. The subject's skin tone consistently looks more pleasing and natural-like from the Galaxy A54, while the Galaxy F54 is not quite there yet. More importantly, whenever there's a bright background like a sky, it completely struggles to control the exposure, whereas the Galaxy A54 maintains a much nicer dynamic range without blowing the highlights. And except for the exposure control, their selfies look quite good actually. So I'm hoping that Samsung is working to fix all this with a future update. As for the low-light photos, I am picking the Galaxy F54 on this one. Its images have more details to peek into, while their slightly warmer color tuning is much more better suited for nighttime images. It is still behind the A54 in highlight control, but turning on night mode mostly does the trick. Video-wise, both the Galaxy A54 and F54 can record up to 4K 30fps from the main as well as the selfie camera. The A54 can even shoot 4K 30fps from its ultra-wide angle lens. However, I am a little disappointed to see that Samsung chose to enable OIS only for 1080p 30fps videos, as there is no stabilization in 1080p 60fps and 4K 30fps footages. The videos still look quite good with nice details and dynamic range, while Samsung's video digital image stabilization also does an okay job at maintaining decent stabilization. But yeah, it definitely would have been a lot better with OIS. And also one more thing, the Galaxy F54 has slightly wider field of view than the Galaxy A54. Finally, let's get into the battery side of things, and this is where the Galaxy F54 ultimately gets its shot at redemption, because it has one of the most impressive endurance out of all the phones that I've tested this year. Thanks to its massive 6000 mAh battery, I was consistently netting around 7 to 8 hours of screen on time even with a heavy usage pattern. And that's a solid A+ in my books any day. On the contrary, the Galaxy A54's 5000 mAh cell would last me about 5 to 6 hours only. But that larger battery on the Galaxy F54 means it also takes longer time to go from 0 to 100%. Okay, so let's wrap things up now. And it's pretty obvious from this comparison that the Galaxy A54 is a better phone compared to the Galaxy F54 in almost every aspect except for battery life. However, Samsung has really spiced things up by pricing the Galaxy F54 quite aggressively. So if you compare the MRP of these two phones, jumping to the Galaxy A54 by adding almost 9,000 rupees more just does not make sense. But we also have to remember that the Galaxy A54 is an offline-centric product, which means that it will go on sale with interesting deals every now and then, compared to the F54, which is entirely Flipkart exclusive and will not get any exciting offers for a very long time. So if you can find the Galaxy A54 at around say 34,000-35,000 Indian rupees, I think it's absolutely worth getting it over the Galaxy F54. I mean, its design alone should convince most people to consider the upgrade, right? Then there are all the other stuff like better optimized cameras, stereo speakers, IP rating, and more. So everybody, this was our detailed comparison of the Samsung Galaxy A54 and the Galaxy F54. Which one would you go for? Do let me know in the comments below. Till then, I'm Pratima and thank you so much for watching our video.